From Texas, Mr. McCaul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Mr. Jones and Mr. Maltz for your service, your law enforcement service in the line of duty in very dangerous conditions. Mr. Maltz, I want to thank you also for your comment about foreign policy, because I can't think from a communist China standpoint, a better foreign policy than introducing poison through Mexico into the United States, killing Americans and making money off it. It's almost like a reverse opium war, and they see it that way. It's killed 70,000 young people, 20,000 pounds of fentanyl seized, enough to kill 4.6 billion people. My children have been to 5 funerals of their friends who thought they were taking Xanax or ADD medication, and they never woke up. And Mr. Jones, I know I commend you for being number one, my great state of Texas, what you've done. We know this better, I think, than anybody. And I remember going down after Mayorkas rescinded remain in Mexico. And I talked to the Border Patrol chief, and it was chaos. And I said, what do you attribute this to? Is there any cause and effect, a direct cause and effect between what you're seeing now and what the policy change of this administration? And he said, Congressman, there's no question there's a direct cause and effect between the rescission of remain in Mexico and what we're seeing today. What else are we seeing? A human trafficking event of my lifetime. I've never seen anything like this. I was the U.S. Attorney at Western District of Texas, had the Texas border. You know, I was chairman of this committee. We were, Ms. Vaughn, getting this under control. We were controlling political asylum because the cartels manipulate political asylum claims. And when the remain in Mexico went into place, they couldn't manipulate it anymore. You know why? Because they couldn't enter the United States. Their claims were adjudicated with them in Mexico, and therefore catch and release was ended finally. The very first bill I introduced in Congress 20 years ago, imagine. And here we are today. It's alive and well, and this secretary is responsible in my judgment. And the rising crime and the women going to sex trafficking, the unvetted homes that these kids go to, and the men go to MS-13, there is a criminal enterprise now, not just in Mexico and in Latin America, but right here in the United States. And it was created by this administration's policies. So my question to the three of you, Mr. Jones, Ms. Vaughn, Mr. Maltz, do you believe that the actions of this secretary by rescinding remain in Mexico, a policy that was effectively working, that has created this criminal enterprise, do you believe that this secretary is responsible for and complicit with the criminal enterprise that has resulted as a result of these policies being rescinded? Mr. Jones.
Yes, I do. And that is validated by not only the data from the United States Customs and Border Protection that validates the numbers that crossed into our country as a result of the exemptions created under Title 42, which Secretary Mayorkas is the architect behind that. In addition, the overdose deaths in this country due to the sheer impact to mothers and fathers and families across this country. The data validates it.
And one thing to add, the district court said you must re-implement remain in Mexico. The secretary did not comply with that order. He failed to comply with that order. Ms. Vaughn.
I do believe that the Biden-Mayorkas policies are responsible, a disaster. They're what's responsible for the situation that we have today. And no amount of money that is funneled to these agencies is going to help the situation until the officers and agents are allowed to do their job. The policies at this point are more important than the money.
In fact, they said, sir, we're turning our backs on you because you turned your back on us, is what I recall. Mr. Maltz.
Well, I say it starts at the top with the president and it comes down. And I just want to say that I make these collages of these dead kids on my own time to help spread the awareness. So the results are just dead children and families going to funerals. That's what it comes down to. I'm not an expert on immigration law or border patrol policies, but I know what's going on in America. And that's why I'm here today. So thank you.
That's why we marked up a bill in my committee to designate fentanyl as a chemical weapon under the Chemical Weapons Convention. Mr. Jones will give us more authorities to go after them. I yield.